inside it's what's inside of the chimney that you see usually from the outside. If you see a masonry chimney, which I'm just very sorry that this is like this, that you'll see another chimney with it. But so this is actually a flue, and in a chimney, you'll be able to see, like, this would be inside of the brick part on the outside. Does that make sense? Okay. So normally this class is not super interactive. A lot of people aren't able to communicate because they're doing other stuff. And I appreciate you being part of it with me as we talk about this. So that we can do this, so that I get it right. And okay, so there's also, what you're going to see is, you see this gas furnace and the gas water heater, and these are coming up. These are the flues going up inside the chimney. And a lot of times you just don't think of that, but these connections are things that don't often get inspected. And a lot of inspectors, we included, say, please have these inspected, have these checked, because we can't see inside these. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second because these pictures are not here. Well, there's that. That's not another picture. I've got some great pictures here to show you so you have an idea before we get into the other pictures. And we have Kate has arrived. So hi, Kate. Kate's one of our chimney inspectors. So here we have the flue inside the chimney. Then you have the rain cap. How many times have you had an inspection where the inspector says, install a rain cap on top of the chimney? That's like the most common thing. So what you're saying, you're adding this rain cap on here to keep rain out, water out, and also animals. My business partner had a nest of birds inside his chimney, and he called to have the birds removed. He had no rain cap. He called to have the birds removed, and they couldn't remove them because they were a protected species. So they had to be kept there until they had all flown the nest. When all the babies left, then they could clean the chimney. And that, you don't want that to happen. It was super noisy in his house, and he wanted to get rid of them and he couldn't. So you want to have a cover on there. And as water gets in here, it causes damage to this liner. This one has a clay liner, and all these little areas that the lines, there's mortar holding those in place there and keeping gases from coming out. And when water gets in there, it causes problems, deterioration. And when you see water staining on the sides or plants growing out of the top or out of the sides, that's because water's gotten in there, and that's a problem. All right. Hi, Kate. Are you so Kate had another appointment this morning. So we've got her expertise here. So Kate, we were just getting into talking about chimneys. I have some great pictures here to show, and couldn't find, like, a couple of them are not showing up. So we're just playing it by ear. This is a challenging one, and everyone's been really gracious with me. So we're gonna talk about different types of chimneys. And here are just some pictures of them, of different types of chimneys. And we're gonna get into those now. If you want to talk about the first type, and so I've got them broken down as the 3 different types of chimneys, and then what we're looking for on inspections, and then we're going to get into some actual photos.
Well, I've got to get back to seeing what you're sharing.
Okay. All right. So what we have here is the different types of chimneys, and I'm sure you've all seen these.
A masonry chimney means we have constructed it out of brick or cinder block. And this is probably one of the more higher maintenance, because chimneys need to be repointed, which means the mortar in between the brick or cinder block will regularly, meaning over the lifespan. It's a decade or 15-year kind of thing. As long as the crown is taken care of, that is a normal maintenance item, repointing a masonry chimney and taking care of the crown. And as Rachel was talking about, making sure your chimney cap is taken care of. Yes, what the pointer is pointing at right now is a crown. And most of the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area tends to create what is called a wash rather than a true crown. But it's essentially the roof of a masonry chimney that makes the water shed, which is the objective.
We don't want water sitting on there.
Because that will mean it will get inside the bricks and cause problems.
Right. Okay, Emily, did you have a question? Okay. The next one is chimneys in a siding chase, or you've seen these on the outside of a house going up this way.
A condo, a townhome, a single family home. We're not doing the construction that is required to take the weight of the bricks. We're building exactly the same box that we do when we build the walls, and we're covering it usually with the same covering. It's just that inside that siding chase, that box, there is a fire rated piece of equipment, hopefully in compliance with the firebox, that carries the combustion gases out of the home. And the picture on the right is a condo chimney chase showing all three condos stacked on top of each other with their individual flues.
So each one of these has one of these inside of it, basically.
Correct.
Okay, and the next one is external, the metal chimneys that you see coming up the side of a house.
These are usually associated with a wood or pellet stove. And it's not so much that it's an afterthought, but it is external. It has to be braced properly. It has to have the proper clearance, and it needs cleaning just like the other two do.
Okay. So the next part that we're going to talk about is what home inspectors are looking for, because on a home inspection, a lot of times you schedule the home inspection and you say, we're not going to get a chimney inspection unless the home inspector says something about it. So these are the items that a home inspector is actually looking at. And then we'll get into the chimney inspector stuff.
This is big picture. On the outside, I'm just looking, does it look sound? The safety items on the inside.
On the inside of the house, not the inside of the chimney, right?
Correct. I've walked into the house and I'm in the family room or I'm in the living room. So I'm looking at the opening that is the fireplace, and with a very small percentage of exceptions, like a gas fireplace that is more than 12 inches above the floor, is there a hearth? Or when the flip happened, did they decide they wanted to run the plastic laminate right up to the fireplace? Because that's a big safety issue. Are there doors?
Because the sparks can fly out and just land on the floor.
Correct.
Right?
It's a fire hazard. Is it correctly sized, and is it present? Because it does matter to the safe use of the fireplace. Doors and screens. If you have a prefabricated fireplace, it is designed specifically to work with the equipment it came with. And if they've been eliminated, the fireplace may not work properly now.
And we'll get into that. We do have a bunch of pictures of those, but I wanted to give some background here.
And then we had damaged fire brick refractory board, which speaks to the inside of the firebox where the logs actually go. And obviously we don't need holes in there because that's a safety issue. So normal, readily accessible items that are required to make the fireplace work. Dampers close the flue when it is not actively in use so that we can keep the rain and out and the temperature you want in the house in, hopefully. Does the damper exist? Is it operational? And what is the condition of it? Things that are readily accessible and can be observed by the human eye from sitting in front of the fireplace are what a home inspector looks for.
Okay. But now, what is a chimney inspector looking for? Well, there's level 1, level 2, and level 3 chimneys, chimney inspections, and you've probably heard of all of those. Level 1 chimney inspection, it's basically what a home inspector does. Right?
Correct. A
level 2 is what you get on a real estate transaction.
Right. The reasons for a level 2 is the house being sold, or are we changing the equipment that is using the chimney? So if we're going from a mid-efficiency furnace to a high-efficiency furnace, or I'm making my water heater different, it's not just a real estate transaction, but this is why you guys will experience level 2 chimney inspections, hopefully. Everything that we do in it's level 1, but there are a lot more steps now, because if the chimney interacts with the attic or the crawl space or the basement, the chimney inspector should be going to all of those areas and making sure the things are done properly. When we're in the attic, insulation is not supposed to touch a metal flue chimney, a flue pipe in the attic, regardless of whether it's for a furnace or for a fireplace. Combustible clearance means, is there a piece of something that will burn, wood most commonly, too close to the source of fire? And sometimes when people put a pretty surround around a fireplace, they can inadvertently cause safety problems. But the most important thing that a level 2 chimney inspection gets you is a camera in the flue, which we can't see in a level 1. It's looking at, hey, did that earthquake 5 years ago damage the pipes inside where we're supposed to have a contained path for the combustion gas to come out of the home? Because a home inspector, when I only have my home inspector hat on, I can't see that. If we're doing a level 2 chimney inspection as a chimney inspector, I get to look at a whole lot more about that to help your clients be safer and educated about their home. You're doing it.
Hang on 1 second. I'm stopping sharing. You keep talking. I'm stopping and I'm resharing because I think I fixed the picture issue.
Okay. The most important thing you're doing is in a transaction, you want a level 2 because we want to know about the house so they can make an educated decision. But we're doing a level 2 because we are wanting to make sure things are safe, and talk about, I don't really want to burn wood, maybe I want to transition to a pellet stove, and there are a lot of things that can happen.
One of the pictures that we didn't get to see was the direct vent fireplace. That I just wanted folks to see this because it's one
common things that new builds are using nowadays.
You'll see this on the back of a house. You'll just see this part, and that's just something else, that one of the pictures that was missing here. Y'all are so gracious. Thank you. So we did level 1, we did level 2, and that's the one that we normally get. And if you've lived in a house for a while, and I think what the rule of thumb is, if you burn 1 cord of wood, then you should have or 2 cords of wood, then you should have a level 2 chimney inspection. So not necessarily every year, but whenever, after you've burned a certain amount of wood, basically. Is that how it goes, Kate?
Well, the bottom of this slide actually tells you when the Chimneys Institute of America recommends. if you had an operation malfunction, you had a chimney fire or your furnace had a serious problem, an external event, an earthquake, a flood, anything that would seriously impact the structure of the chimney. As I said earlier, the changes to the system, if you're updating other appliances that use the chimney, then you need to. And of course, most important to us, the real estate transaction. The cord of wood rule of thumb usually applies to when do I need to have my chimney swept.
Got it.
A cord of wood is 2 foot deep, meaning how long are the logs, 4 foot tall, and 8 foot wide. And if you've burned that much wood, you really, really, really need to have your chimney swept by a professional.
Okay.
Have you found any evidence of earthquake damage since you mentioned that?
Oh, absolutely. We have had 3 earthquakes in the last 15 years that have done some very serious damage. Columbia, I don't know that I've had a fireplace that hasn't had, if I put a gold star on it, it's because it's had remedial work or it's been lined. Most of the time in homes where we don't use our fireplace, it just sits there, it's just pretty, or I burn candles in it and we put the camera up, there are cracks or displacements or gaps in the mortar. That the earthquake that happened, I think 2008, 2010, whenever it was, it has seriously impacted fireplace chimneys in our area.
Great question, Brian. Shoot, I forgot the question I was going to ask. Okay. So when would you do, what if you have a client who says, I want the top tier of everything and I want, so there's a level 3, I want the level 3 chimney inspection.
Nope, you don't. Level 2 usually gives us enough information for 99% of the world. If somebody says, chimneys as is, we had a chimney fire last year, I know you're going to need to do work and I'm just not ready to do anything with it, it's as is, then chimney people coming in are going to do a level 3 inspection. The key component of level 3, it starts as a level 2, and then when we find the evidence of the chimney fire or whatever the discussion is, then it gets destructive. That's the main definition of a level 3. If I see something, I'm not just saying, hey, look at that, you'll need to talk to somebody. Level 3, they actually go in, they start removing bricks, they cut holes in walls, it's a destructive inspection.
And that's not happening on real estate transactions. That's happening when there's been a serious problem.
So the tippy top inspection you're going to get is a level 2.
Okay.
So the bottom line is, why does this matter? Because we are choosing to build a fire inside our house, and it's got to be safe.
So there's just a ton of stuff you can't see. And we're burning things in a house. Oh, the other part of this is if you have something that has you burning a fire in your house, if it's your furnace and there's a fire in it because you're burning gas or oil, you need to have a carbon monoxide detector and a smoke detector. And just
rated fire extinguisher is not a bad thing either.
I just added that picture because I thought it was demonstrative of what we're talking about. But the smoke detectors and the carbon monoxide detectors can be a challenge for people to figure out what they need. So if there is anything that burns or that can burn, you're going to need a carbon monoxide detector.
But please don't put it right next to the actual piece of equipment. Put it at the bottom of the stairs, not 6 inches away from the furnace.
Okay.
Question for you. I had a neighbor who had a fire in their attic because they had some zero clearance type flue that went up there, and the zero clearance actually did set the wood on fire. What can you say about that?
It wasn't installed correctly. Zero clearance or low clearance is construction language for a factory built fireplace unit that has to be installed exactly how the instructions say. Because yes, you can actually take clearances down to 1 to 3 inches if you do it exactly how the instructions say. So if we get up into the attic and I haven't put the fire breaks between the floors and I don't have the collar that keeps the insulation off the metal pipe, I'm inviting that fire, and it will happen eventually. When we have grandpa who's selling the house and I've been burning wood there for forever and it's not a problem. One of the SAT words that you're going to get to learn today, pyrolysis, is what happens to wood when it is not installed correctly and the 2x4 of the wall or the attic is too close to the heat source. As I light the fireplace or turn the furnace on and that wood gets warm and then cools down and gets warm, it chemically changes and the burn point of it gets lower and lower and lower, and eventually you have a fire in your attic or in your family room. Or so when things are not installed correctly, it's a matter of when, not a matter of if. And more than likely, that's what happened to your neighbor.
That's what I think they said too. Yeah.
So it matters that licensed contractor who actually reads and follows the instructions. It really does matter. Uncle Harry might be a great guy, but he may not be the right choice for that repair.
Good thing to bring up. I'm just looking at this picture on the left-hand side, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen in the properties that you've been in, a system like this down in the basement, and then this looks like something was there before and it's sealed up. Like
so when you have a wall like that and there's a chimney on the other side of it, the opening is what's called, the technical word is a thimble, like some people think a seamstress has on their finger. That thimble opening has the flue connector going into it, and this happens to be an oil burner boiler, and it just goes into a flue. And these pictures are actually paired because this oil burner, this oil boiler, looks pretty darn good. It's clean, it's tidy, the wall is nicely sealed. When I tap on the barometric damper, it was working great. But
and this is the barometric damper right here, right?
Yes, and that is necessary for 98+% of oil burning equipment.
So if you see this and your client says, what is this?
Barometric damper.
Allowing airflow?
It protects the burn chamber of the piece of equipment, because when high volume breeze wind run across the top of the chimney, you get a suctioning effect. And if you pull really hard, and you guys may have seen a fireplace where it flares up and then calms back down when the wind dies down. And it's one thing when you're burning wood, but when it's in your piece of equipment, that flare up can damage the inside. So the barometric damper, when the pull happens, it opens and stops the pull, allowing air to go in where the cursor is and protecting the expensive piece of equipment beneath it. So it's another safety device.
Now it's interesting because I had a buyer one time who actually didn't like that it made this noise of a flapping noise of this tinking sound of it against metal. And so she tightened it so it wouldn't open and close all the time. Bad idea?
Very bad idea. That's actually something I do in a home inspection. If there's a bedroom close to that, whoever is going to stay in that bedroom, I bring them over, even if it's a 10-year-old kid. Hear this noise? Tap, tap, tap. That's normal and good and not scary. That's just a noise your home makes.
So that picture is paired with this picture because
we did a chimney inspection. There's a fireplace in the living room above this boiler. And there really isn't two independent flues the way there should be in this home. They brought the boiler flew up and then jammed it into the fireplace flue in the living room above. And the oil, the corrosion of what what happens when oil burns and the soot gets wet, it was eating the clay tile. So yes, Rachel, this picture exactly. The boiler should be all by itself going all the way up, but it would be like below the word flue liner on the left side. They banged it over into the throat of the chimney, and the chemical composition of the oil mixing with the fireplace and the water coming down the chimney, because there was no rain cap, was eating the flue liner. So this house had some work to do to help the house live another 100 years.
So if you've got anything that's burning, that's got a chimney, that's not a high efficiency furnace, which would be have it would have a plastic exhaust, basically. If you've got two separate things, you should be able to see two separate outputs on the roof or at the chimney area.
Absolutely. They have different flow rates. They have different combustion rates, and you don't want the more powerful one overpowering the less powerful one, because you could end up with the combustion from the boiler actually in the living room. When it finishes eating through everything, you could just be your boiler into the living room.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so well, what about this though? If you've got a gas furnace and a gas water heater, how come they can share a flue? Like, how come I don't have to have two things on my roof for those?
The people who do these installs make sure they are in the correct order, and they are sizing the initial connector, which is the piece from the appliance to the main chimney, correctly, and then they join together into the chimney, which has been correctly sized as well.
So you're saying the pieces that what they're doing, you can't. So if like I'm buying an old house and it's got a gas furnace, and now I'm like, well, we've got gas, I want a gas water heater too. They can't just add it without doing some math and making sure that this is the right size. And the gas water heater, because it has a smaller exhaust, has to go in a certain place. So it's got to go above the larger one. Is that also what I'm hearing you saying? Like the position of the flues has to be a specific way?
Yes, and it's not just the diameter that determines it. It's the BTU, how big is the actual piece of equipment. Because if you have a Baltimore row home that has the original 70s something conventional furnace, that has a lower BTU rating than the water heater does. So yes, these guys, they do a lot of studying, and the apprentice takes as long as it does because they have to know that. They have to know that when I eliminate a gas furnace from an existing shared vent, I then have to go back and line the big chimney that was intended to take care of both of these appliances down to only taking care of the water heater. If a conventional furnace has been transitioned to a high efficiency furnace, which means we get the plastic pipes going out on that level, but the water heater is still going up, its little teeny tiny vent is not going to make it to the top of the chimney. So we have to reline it with a 3-inch liner instead of the 8 or 10 or 12-inch liner that was there when they were sharing it.
So if they
does matter.
Okay, so if they get this, let's say this gas furnace becomes high efficiency, and so it's so efficient that what it's exhausting is not hot enough to need a metal flue. So they'll actually just use plastic because it's not going to melt it because it's so efficient. So those plastic ones are going out the side or wherever they're going out. And then they just seal up this hole. They can't leave the gas water heater. They can't safely, I shouldn't say they can't since they do this all the time. They can't safely leave this water heater just going up by itself. Now, is that what's called an orphaned water heater or an orphaned exhaust?
Yes, that's a common term. for the water heater that is left over when we replace the gas furnace.
Okay,
And
because it's just too small that when the exhaust is coming out, it's got room to just float around as opposed to just being sucked up.
correct. We
Cool.
can't rely on gravity to act, and the Bernoulli effect of getting the hot up,
Okay,
get all the way
Sure.
to the top of that chimney.
okay. Go ahead, Bryant.
I was just going to say that opening that was to the outside there, do you ever get bushes and things that block it and then that can cause problems? Or not really?
On the left side down there,
Yeah.
that's out, so it should have a metal door on it that you have to consciously open to get to the bottom of the chimney flue.
Did you say that's a clean out, Kate?
Yes. We get that 1 in a million, the crow dies and falls down my chimney and is stinking in the bottom. That would let me
Oh, okay.
clean it out.
Okay.
Yeah, because I thought with gases there wouldn't be anything to clean out.
You never know what Mother Nature is going to throw at us, unfortunately.
Now there-
Homeownership is an adventure.
Now there is a clean out for also, which most are probably familiar with, but we'll just add this in since we're back here at these pictures. There is a clean out for the masonry fireplace where you're burning something and you've got to clean those ashes out and other stuff, right? So that's something that you're looking for. And sometimes you'll see it on the outside of the house.
Yep, it depends on how it's constructed. It's not always there, but yes, a opening, usually 1 fire brick size with a little louvered door, will dump it into an ash pit in the basement or outside. And this is one of those silly things that just makes me as a home inspector shake my head. So if I'm living in a castle and the ash pit goes down to a place where I can carry it straight outside, cool. But in my house, if I use the ash dump and put it in the ash pit, I then have to go down in the basement, open the door, clean it out of a little teeny tiny opening, and then drag it back through my finished house anyway. So what I tell people who are not fireplace people who want to become fireplace people, 2 days after the fire is dead, make sure the fire is dead, and then you can clean it out with a metal bucket, taking it out the smartest, cleanest way for your home. But yes, we do look at the little louvered door, because if it's gone, that's a hole in your fireplace, which is a bad thing. People shouldn't drywall over the clean out door because maybe somebody wants to use that clean out and they're not Kate. But that is something we do call out. I don't want to say
Yes.
routinely, but often.
It's not an uncommon it's not uncommon that we can't find it. Or that it's been covered. Okay, let's get back. You guys are just so patient with me and generous. You may all be shaking your heads, but I appreciate your patience. Anyway, okay, so this is the inside of that. It's all deteriorated from it's corroded from the burning of the
Because
oil.
they combined the flues, and the chemical composition is not a good combination, and the open chimney at the top, getting it wet, accelerates the problem. Oh, Rachel, I'm going to have to send you a picture for this because I just put a new pan on top of my chimney and it looks so pretty. The top of a siding chase, and the one in the bottom right corner is actually my old one. When it's made out of galvanized, it's going to look like this after about 10 years. And mine lasted 32 years without actually dripping water into my siding chase, but it definitely needed to be replaced. This is a very common call out. Most of the time, some Rust-Oleum. Make sure that we're not too dipping because water sitting up there accelerates the problem. The new ones actually are built in with ribs in them so that they stay sloped away from the fireplace flue opening. They're getting smarter.
That's great. Now, so I've heard this part called a rain cap, but also a spark arrestor. Is that the same thing?
Two different words saying this different things. And in very wooded areas, the spark arrestor component of that is more important than the rain cap, because you don't want the ashes. Sometimes they actually get live sparks coming out of the top, and you can burn your house down because you caught the forest on fire outside first. So rain caps keep critters out, keeps the rain out, and keeps the sparks hopefully from getting where they shouldn't go.
How can you tell if there's a spark arrestor or just a rain cap?
Same thing.
Oh, got it, got it. Okay. I thought you said the opposite of, so thank you.
Nope.
Okay.
Same thing.
And I apologize, y'all, for my dogs barking. They're very excited about chimneys and also squirrels outside.
Baltimore has some of the coolest chimneys. These beehive chimneys are usually found in Baltimore row homes 1890 to 1920-ish. Sometimes they've been covered over with flat roofing material. They're tarred, they're parged, but they're pretty cool. The center one there.
Wait, what about this? This is a clay flue liner in here?
Yep.
So
Somebody-
like so is this like there were two things coming out of here? Maybe the neighbors had one thing and the current owners have this?
that's
Or
one possibility. This happened to be a kind of high end upscale Otterbein
Mhm.
story, very nicely maintained historic home, and the home had 3 different levels of fireplaces, and these two happen to share the masonry chimney coming up. One has been officially abandoned. We can't see anything in it on the left side. The one on the right side, the living room, still had a fireplace and that clay flue tile connected down to it.
it
It-
looks crooked and like exposed to the weather. So is water just getting in there and damaging it? Is this okay?
The beehive top does probably 85+% of water shedding. It would take the storm blowing exactly the right direction at exactly the right angle to get true water intrusion. Sometimes, very rarely, people will put mesh on either side, but usually these are built this way. And most commonly, they don't have clay liners. This was actually somebody went in and dropped a liner into the original chimney, which was built just brick, which
Okay,
is not okay anymore.
Okay. got it. So the first new construction I inspected had no liner in the chimney, and it was not in the 1890s that I did that inspection. It was in 2006, and there was no liner, and it was new construction. And I was like, I've got to be missing something. What am I missing here? And that's what, I mean, they just didn't put it in. The builder was, and the agent didn't trust the builder. The agent wasn't impressed by them and had forced the buyer to get a home inspection. And
Good.
they were very lucky, because even not doing a level 2 chimney inspection with a camera, just looking up, I could see that it wasn't, and looking down that it wasn't right. What about critters getting in here? Last question before we move to the middle picture.
It's a possibility. Anytime it's wide open, like all 4 of these pictures are,
Mhm.
rats, raccoons, yes, they could purposefully choose to make a nest in there, or they might accidentally get trapped in there.
Okay. Or bats. We don't want bats in there either.
Bats too. Chickens and bats love abandoned chimneys because there's just enough stuff to grab onto, build a nest on, and it protects them. They only have to worry about what's coming down from the top. It's a safe place for them.
Okay, so an abandoned chimney really though should be sealed up or abandoned professionally, not just say abandoned, we don't use it, so just skip it.
Yeah, when something has been taken out of service, abandoned, a
Okay.
professional will seal it.
Okay, one more quick question. When people paint, I've seen this in a lot of flips, people paint the inside of the firebox, like where you look at the fireplace and they're like, oh, we're not going to use it. We'll just paint it black or whatever color they paint it, and then we'll put candles in it. But it's not abandoned. is that safe to then, if I want to, just have a fire in that fireplace?
It depends. That's why our report has a comment that says verify with seller if firebox was painted with heat rated paint. Because you have to be able to paint your wood stove. So there are paints that can take fire hot, but most of the time that's just latex wall paint. And no, that's not safe.
Okay, great. So now we're looking at a bunch of chimneys. This one, it looks like, isn't this part on the inside, this clay tile flue liner supposed to be above the crown?
Yep, depending on how tall the chimney is and what the diameters are, there's a prescribed how tall it needs to be. Whenever it is the same height as the crown, you will have water intrusion. It won't draw correctly because now the temperature will be different. You've got to have the difference in the top of it being cold and the inside not. Yes, the math that is fireplace, anything that is level like that is not going to work correctly.
Okay, so you could actually potentially get carbon monoxide poisoning simply from having this not being tall enough.
If you are having trouble with your fireplace drawing the combustion going up, yes, you could.
It's a science. I mean, the whole thing is very well calculated. Okay, so and then also this crown is pretty
It's
damaged.
cracked. Yep,
And this one too.
absolutely.
And what's this thing here? Is that part of the chimney?
That is a stack vent. Most of the time, that is how the sewer gases associated with the plumbing system leave the home. It is a passive vent, meaning air just rises, so it's not being blocked or impeded by the chimney. But if I had a vent for a water heater, being that close, you would have to look back at the water heater instruction manual for the clearance of that venting to make sure it was placed correctly.
Okay. Got it. And I need a vent for the plumbing stuff because if it's not open, it would be like a straw that you put in a glass of water and then put your finger over the top and you pull the straw out and you still got the water in it. Like the water wouldn't move when you flush the toilet
The vent stack serves two purposes. Our plumbing makes methane gas, which doesn't smell good and is explosive. And like Rachel just said, water needs air pressure to go down. Gravity is nice, but if we want it to really go away when we flush the toilet, we've got to have the air pressure in the system pushing down as well.
Okay. Well, thank you. So anything else on these pictures? Any questions on these?
So those cracks in the cap will let water inside, right? And could crack the liner.
It could do a lot of different things. When you look up at a masonry chimney and there's moss or trees or grass growing either out of the top or between the bricks, that by definition tells us there's a source of moisture intrusion, which is usually cracks in the crown, allowing water in. And plant growth is not good for a chimney. Think what plant growth does to break apart a tree that's fallen down. So the roots are going in and displacing the mortar. And then we also have to think about the same freeze thaw cycle that makes potholes in your road is at work in a chimney that has a water intrusion problem. And there'll be times we walk up to a chimney and the mortar is just literally being pushed out from between the bricks because of that freeze thaw cycle. Repointing our mortar joints is the fix for that. But before we even think about repointing, we've got to get a good crown on the top. So this is the roof of the chimney. The brick is a very strong building material, but the entire system has to be watertight for it to last.
Great question, Bryant.
This crown is the only one I have seen in the wild in the metro area in the last decade that is constructed to best practices. The ones that I had described where it just kind of goes down and curves at the edge of the brick, chimney people will actually call that a wash. A crown is supposed to extend out beyond the brick so that the water comes over, comes down, and then drips off into space rather than running down the brick, which will running down the brick gives it a chance to see where's the hole, how can I get in, how can I hurt this chimney. That crown is gorgeous.
So it's like it is so much like the roof, like it's hanging over and just not
Exactly.
letting the water drip on there. Okay, so I'm gonna speed you up a little, Kate. So because we've got some really good pictures I want to show, but this one right here is also a chimney.
That's the furnace flue. Yep.
Okay.
You might hear somebody call that a B vent. That's just a classification in the heating and HVAC world.
And
So
that's just the letter B, right?
Yep. So I've got a metal B vent and I've got a masonry chimney.
Okay. And then 2 plumbing stacks.
And 2 plumbing stacks.
Okay. Now we've got external chimneys. And this is, wow, this is creosote in here?
Yeah, this is a wood stove, and the stainless steel chimney there is gorgeous, very nicely anchored. But I couldn't even get a camera into this to look at it because it was so dirty. The picture on the right side has so much creosote that I can't see daylight through it, which more than likely means that we're very built up inside the height of the stainless steel chimney on the outside. Usually the creosote starts at the bottom and creeps its way up. And if we've gotten to the point that the spark arrestor / rain cap at the top is that dirty, we definitely need to clean and service this wood burning stove.
Okay. Well, thank you. Okay. Oh, we have that in here twice. Okay. So we're just getting into the pictures. We have 5 minutes left until the class is officially over. We'll go through these pictures. If you have to drop off, let me know, or just hop off. And what I'll do is I'll send out the link to our YouTube page so you can watch this video. I will edit out the Rachel blunders at the beginning, so you won't have to deal with that again. But if you want to see the end part and you don't get to see it, and you like or subscribe to our YouTube page, our YouTube channel, which is at Lodestar Inspections, then you'll be able to just get a notification as soon as I post this after I've edited it a little bit. So if you have to get off before these pictures are done, because this is the fun part, but I wanted to get the basic stuff in so that you could really get a sense of what you're looking at. And when a home inspector or a chimney inspector says something, what they're actually talking about, instead of it just being like a bunch of words that are just like, oh my gosh, yeah, that it's so you have some sense. You don't have to remember this stuff. But let's see, the left hand side we've already seen the picture of. This is the deterioration from the chemical composition of that oil furnace venting and going right through in the same flue as the wood burning fireplace. That's on the left. The orange things sticking out are the stabilizers for the camera, so the camera doesn't just flop over and hit the sides, right?
Nothing to do with the chimney, correct?
Okay. And then this one on the right, is that, what are we looking at here?
That is a stainless steel pipe that is covered in creosote. That black bumpy stuff is creosote. That is what can catch fire.
Okay. Hang on a second here. There we go.
So this is looking into a thimble opening. The seller had taken their wood stove with them. So we're looking in and you can see that part of the clay tile is flaking off. We call that spalling and may need to be replaced, but the clay tile goes in and then just stops. And you can see the block liner of the chimney there. So we just have an unlined chimney going to the rooftop. So hopefully the gas is going up.
Hang on, so this part right here is going from where the wood stove was burning
in the inside of the house.
inside the house. And then what is this part right here?
That's the wall of the chimney that they banged through to get into the hollow of the chimney.
Okay, and then this is the
Like back wall of the chimney. So there's
Okay.
a a 12 to 18-inch space out there.
And then this all right here is just wide open space down, around, up, everywhere?
Yep.
Oh, that seems really dangerous because the whole point is it should be basically just the gases should only have one path, right?
Well,
Like no options of to go around this.
in a perfect world today, yes, we want all chimneys to be lined. But if I light the fire in the wood burning stove, hot air wants to rise. So the air will go up the chimney flue because it's sloped at an angle going up. And then when it gets to that big space, as long as there's no blockages, it will go up and out. But in a 1900 built masonry chimney with no clay liner in it, the old brick and non-existent mortar could fall in and block it so that the combustion gas can't go up, which is why we really need to look at the old chimneys.
Okay. What are we looking at here? What is this? Okay, so I see this is the stabilizer for the camera. Is this a piece of clay tile?
Something's sticking out. The most important thing to remember, yeah, that's a lot of creosote. Creosote equals fire danger. So when I say creosote, that is a problem.
Creosote has little tiny pieces of unburned wood in it, right? So it's super flammable.
Along with other carcinogens and tar and lots of things that aren't good for us. Yes.
Okay. But so if you light a fire in this fireplace below here and the smoke is going up, the exhaust is going up, it looks like it could just get in here and get in other parts of the house or parts of the chimney instead of going straight up. Is that?
Yeah, where your cursor was, that there's an opening right there below to the right there. There are actually openings in the clay tile liner that, yes, it does two things. It changes the airflow so the hot air is less likely to go up in a neat, smooth path. It swirls and it tries to go into the openings.
Mhm.
And when hot air gets dumped into one of those openings, it's a lot colder. So it slows down and dumps the creosote and causes a buildup. So then when we get that little spark in this big pile of creosote, that's when we have a high temperature chimney event, which is one of those things that would spur a level 3 inspection.
Okay. Also, could that then that fire could be outside the chimney, outside of the space too, right?
It could be in the chimney, but not in the usable where I want the chimney system to be. Yes.
I was just thinking of that causing a fire and it being an issue in the attic or other places.
Yeah, it'll come through the bedroom wall given the right. So
just a quick question.
Yep.
A question about the creosote. Since it builds up there, does that sort of argue against having a really roaring fire where the temperature is really, really hot because it's more likely to set the creosote on fire? Or not really?
Most of America overbuilds their fireplaces. If you want to have a real roaring fire pit in the backyard. Those Duralogs that you sell in see in the grocery stores, that, especially in a pre-built metal refractory board type fireplace, that's the size fire we're supposed to be building in those fireplaces. If your fire is so big that it's touching the top of the fire box, it is way too big. And yes, doing that consistently can cause problems.
Okay.
Sometimes clay tiles break out. That's a huge hole in a clay tile that is a problem. This is a gap between two clay tiles. Again, the airflow is disturbed. We're allowing the combustion gases to go where we don't want. And if we do that long enough, sometimes the answer is I have to go in and break out the entire clay tile liner, clean the chimney structure, and then reinstall a liner.
So when the chimney inspector says it's that there are expensive repairs to do, then sometimes they really are, there are things that like this that they're talking about. So while they're writing themselves a paycheck, there are things like this. And so you should ask them that. Or, I mean, because that's the thing is, this isn't an upgrade to have this fixed. This is the only way to make it safe. Thanks for being here, Jason. Right? Is that what you're saying, Kate?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Somebody bashed a hole sideways in a chimney to join two flues, except there's a wood 2x4 in the middle of the hole that they bashed to go
Wait, hang on a
sideways.
second. Hang on a second, Kate. We're looking, this is like vertical, right? This is up and down.
Correct.
And this is in the side of it that someone
Correct.
like bashed a hole in the side of it. So we're going up, you're going up, 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 up. I'm inspecting. And suddenly you come across this big hole in the side with a
Exactly.
2x4 in it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
No home inspector is ever going to be able to see this. It's not that they miss it. It's that it is physically impossible to see this without a level 2 chimney inspection.
Wow. Why did they do that? Ah, that's a silly question. Nobody knows except the one who did it, huh?
They weren't there for me to ask. Sorry.
Everyone asks that on home inspections, right? Or when you're looking at a house, why would they do this? What the heck is this? Now, this is a clay tile that I'm looking at.
Correct. And
And
then we're
then,
looking at the bricks of the chimney on the outside of a very big hole.
so on the other side of this is the outside of the outside.
Yep.
So water's getting in and exhaust is not drawing out up through the chimney like it should be.
Exactly.
That seems really dangerous.
It is not how the chimney designer intended it to function.
Nicely worded, and that you can tell you're a home inspector because you said it. Instead of me being all inflammatory, that looks really dangerous. Not the way it was intended when it was built. Very good. Okay, we're gonna skip over this slide. It's just factory built fireplaces, which we talked about a little bit. These are designed to go together and really they're designed to be installed a certain way. And inside of those fireplaces, you're gonna see, you should be able to find one of these things, a data plate.
Or it will automatically get flagged as not appropriate. It's not installed how it was intended to be, and it is automatically deemed unsafe if you do not have the data plate and the hang tag underneath of it.
Okay. And this right here, this black stuff, what is this black thing? So I know we're looking at the chimney and this is the back wall of the fireplace?
No, this one was, the data plate was probably vertical, Marco being at the bottom. So probably the surround out in the room is what's on the bottom of that picture. It's just
Okay.
rotated.
So the agent could see this, but they'd have to like lean in to see this part.
Open the door, move the screens. Sometimes they're hard to get to.
Okay.
And sometimes they've been there so long and been burned so much that you have to know that it's a data plate to recognize it. Like that one's pretty rough.
And how long are these things designed to last?
Most of the time, 20 years is an expected lifespan because you have to put specific parts back in. Superior versus all the manufacturers, you can't put a BMW part in a Ford, and the fireplaces are the same way. You can't use a Superior fireplace part in a pre-way built fireplace. It immediately voids all warranty, and they probably won't comply with the Underwriter Laboratory certification, which voids all safeties.
So is there a date on here so we can tell if it's over 20 years old? Or is that something that you're looking at it and saying, okay, this is all burned up, and or this is original to the house that was built in 1985, it needs to be replaced? Is that, or does it depend on how much it's been used too?
Well, if it is pristine because nobody ever used it and you don't need to buy replacement parts, and going forward you always do your preventative maintenance and don't overburn it, it could live longer than 20 years and be safe. But if it's already had a hard life, the manufacturers know when they built things. And if I can read the data codes and get to the correct manufacturer, we can verify that this unit that's in a 1985 house, yes, this is the original 1985 fireplace, which makes it 40 plus years old and very used. So getting a replacement part, a new refractory board, a new fan for the circulation fan, every single one of those openings in the black is, you will use this part number in this Marco fireplace. You can't just walk into Home Depot and say, gee, I like that black set of doors so much better than what's here. Immediate void of everything, changes the airflow, may make the fireplace not work as properly anymore because you've changed the gaps. And when you're looking at the metal fireplaces, there are grates that you may or may not see or recognize. And somebody could say, oh, I really want to add 2 inches of covering over here because that's so much prettier. Except now we've just covered up the vent, which means the heat is in the wrong place. And we're causing pyrolysis in the wall. They have to be installed correctly and they have to be maintained properly to be safe. And that next picture, Rachel, is probably one of the most important reasons for a good rain cap. This is looking at the roof of the firebox of a prefabricated fireplace. And that is the metal separated by more than an inch. The flue up on the roof is pushing down, and this metal is so rusted out that it's 1.5 inches lower than it should be, which means there is nothing safe about this fireplace. The minute you light a fire, you are putting fire into the wall.
Wow. Now, so what is this piece on the black? Are these all big like cinder blocks or bricks?
That is a masonry fireplace with individual fire bricks, and it has a lot of water intrusion. And those are both, water intrusion is not a good thing for the fireplace. In a factory built fireplace, there's a big sheet of heat resistance refractory board, which is a heat rated concrete material that when I light a fireplace, it bounces it back in to the room and keeps the heat from traveling into the wall.
Is that like this stuff?
Correct.
Okay.
They usually look like bricks, but there'll be a board on the side and a board on the side and a board on the back and a board on the floor. And that's what makes our fire inside our home stay in one place.
Okay. What the heck? So this is the refractory board that you were just
That's
talking
a
about?
refractory board, yes. And
Here's one, here's another, and there will be another one over here.
Yep, there's a clip at the top. So replacing a refractory board is not a hard thing. Per UL standards and the manufacturer's installation guide, they need to be replaced by a correct one. You can't just go buy a generic one and have it be correct. But that's water staining coming down the chimney, which means there's a problem somewhere. This should be dry. There should never be water in here. And that's looking straight up. That's what we want to see. I can see daylight through the rain cap at the top of the chimney. Yep, there's creosote on the damper. That metal flap is the damper. And Rachel is circling a little tiny fish mouth. When the metal pipes are not put together correctly, sometimes we'll end up with a little hole. Hang on a sec. How here for the 10:30 meeting. I'm just finishing up a Zoom call.
Upstairs is open, so if you want to come in this way and go up.
So, I muted Kate for a second as she's going into her meeting. But so this isn't right. And as you could see, then it can't be sealed because it's open. So this, we
Yeah.
call it a fish mouth. The smoke, the exhaust, like when you drive a car, the exhaust comes out, the exhaust has to go somewhere and it can go up here. And then that's getting into the walls or into your house, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. This is so gorgeous. What a beautiful marble fireplace surround this has. It's got a hearth in front. It's got all stone here so that if there's any sparks get out, it's not flammable, not combustible stuff, right?
Every single piece that looks like marble is plywood or trim board.
Wow, so someone actually just spent a lot of time on YouTube and made a gorgeous decorative piece that could start a fire.
That painting is wonderful. That faux marble is some of the best painting I've seen, but none of that is non-combustible.
Okay, so this is all wood. Oh, I see it. I can see it like nail gunned in there. And
Yep.
then is this refractory board here on the bottom and the back?
Those are refractory board.
Okay, and then what's down here? What's this grate thing?
That's part of the air circulation. You get a zero clearance or a low clearance fireplace because there's supposed to be an air pocket all the way around. And right now, the bottom one is still open, but they've covered the top one and they've covered the ones to the side, making it a full marble thing.
Got it. Okay. Okay, there's freestanding wood and pellet stoves. Let's zip through this. Everybody's got to go. I appreciate everybody staying on here. So the main thing about freestanding wood stoves, pellet stoves is there are very specific directions that go with the installation. And if you don't follow them, then it's dangerous.
Correct.
And that's so we look for like a data plate on one of these units simply so that we can find out what was allowed and what was not, or to check and make sure, right?
If a stove doesn't have a data plate on it, it's going to be more than 40 years old, past an expected lifespan, and will be recommended for replacement.
Okay. So what the heck is this that I'm looking at? Left-hand picture first.
The inside of the wood burning stove. The bricks are actually bricks. Those are fire bricks on the inside of the stove that protects the metal from being too hot and burning through. The fire bricks gain the heat and radiate the heat and protect the stove walls. That's a replacement item, maintenance on somebody who uses a wood stove.
Okay, and all this is ash up here. And then what about this crack here? Is that bad?
That's the maintenance part. You will replace fire bricks on a regular basis.
Okay.
And then this is looking out the back. Anytime we can see the big opening leaving the wood burning stove, that is an indicator of an old stove. The new ones have baffles and catalytic converters to gather the bad stuff that the EPA doesn't want in the air.
Got it. So you could tell this one's over 40 years old simply by that.
Exactly.
Okay. And then, oh my gosh, this data plate is a little melted.
They have burned a stove. Yeah, this is a beautiful looking stove. It has a great surround. It is away from the wall. It is in total compliance with its data plate. But anytime your data plate that is supposed to last the lifespan of the wood stove is that corroded, deteriorated, burnt, that means the wood stove has been overburnt. The discoloration on the angled pieces above that is metal stress from being overburnt. Wood stoves don't have to have big fires to be effective heat producers. And this poor little guy has been horribly overburnt.
Okay.
We can see the creosote. Again,
you only have creosote from burning wood. Okay. Oh, this, hang on. What is this right here? This,
That's a wood stove.
but what, is there a problem because of this difference in color here? Or is that just lighting?
Lighting.
Okay. And this one?
I think we're looking at the soot that is at the top of the brass doors. That's an indication of a problem with draw. The combustion gases are coming back in the house because the air's not going up the chimney the way it should. Changing the size of the opening affects the draw. So
Okay.
sometimes doors are put in to correct draw problems, and sometimes doors get put in to an opening that doesn't have doors, and it causes a draw problem.
Okay. So you have to actually know what you're doing and talk to somebody, a professional,
Absolutely.
before you do it. Okay, what is this?
This is the form that was used to pour the support underneath the fireplace hearth extension, but the form never got removed. So this is a clearance to combustible problem, and the wood needs to be removed.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. And you saw that in the basement or in the crawl space or something is where you'd see that.
Yep.
Okay, and that should just be plain old concrete, right? I think there's a picture of, it should be like this, right?
Should be like that one.
Okay, hang on, let me go back to this. What in the heck is this? I've seen this on lots of places.
That's the gas shutoff for the gas logs. Every gas log system needs to have a shutoff in the same room as the logs. This is a higher end nice one. The gas feed comes up in the crawl space. They put the shutoff access in the hearth extension, and then the logs are in the firebox.
Okay, then here we've got, that's what you're showing us here, right? Is the underside of the fireplace.
Yep.
With the form removed, the wood is gone, and now it's just concrete.
Yep.
And then we've got some water intrusion into this crawl space, into the,
Yes.
okay.
The home inspector.
Yeah, sorry, there we go. Okay, here we go. What are we
Very
looking at
normal
here?
Attic picture. The flashing on chimneys unfortunately doesn't get done correctly a lot of the time. So when they re-roofed last time, they replaced some sheathing, and we're looking at an old brick chimney here. And it has been what is called corbelled, which means they built it straight while it was in the house. And then when we got into the attic, the guy said, I need to move this over so that it'll drain properly on the roof. So it's stair stepped, so the chimney literally has a bend in it. It goes up 2 stories, and then it goes over, and then it goes up through the roof.
And that's
not
okay?
It's not wrong. It's okay as long as everything is lined and going where it needs to go.
Great.
That's why you do a class 2 inspection.
Oh gosh, okay, so this is the last, excuse me, this is the last slide. Any questions as we are here at the end? Kate, your information's not on here, but to reach Kate, I wasn't sure you were gonna be here, Kate. The office number is right here, and you can reach Kate right through that. Or this is my cell. If you contact me, I can connect you with Kate or with me about it. So, and
Yes, if you got
Oh.
questions, call us, because we will be happy to help you while you are still evaluating whether or not to put an offer in.
perfect. And also we're text friendly. So go ahead and send a text if you need to. So I am going to, this has been great, Kate. I'm glad that you hopped on and were able to make it.
I have a quick question.
Yes, go ahead,
Yep.
Bryant.
So if you do your inspections, do you have chimney repair people that you can refer out to make the repairs? Because you don't do them yourself, right?
Correct. We do have people that we can recommend to you. And what we've done with our report is worked with some chimney repair companies so that they get what they need from the report to be able to give you an accurate quote. If they are going to have to put up scaffolding or those kinds of things, they need to know certain things about the property. So that is information that we'll be able to provide to you if you need a chimney repairs done. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, then we're going to hop off. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to talk to Kate for 5 seconds before she hops into her meeting. And everybody have a wonderful day.
Thank you for coming in, guys. Look
Yeah,
forward to
thanks.
hearing from you.
Thanks for being here.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you. Love having you, Bryant. And Gigi and Delinda and Kathy, so glad you were here. Thank you. I don't know where my video went, Kate, but and I appreciate you coming on, because if I were saying all that, it's really boring when it's just one person talking. Great, you got here, Gigi.
Yeah, it looks like you disabled video. I know sitting on the steering wheel probably was making people seasick.
I did turn off your video, but mine disappeared too, which was weird. But I did. I just turned it off because I was like, this is no one. And I think you one word you said was got broken off or something, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna turn off your video and then it won't be an issue at all.
Cool.
But yeah, you made it much more interesting, because I would have been saying the stuff, but having it as a conversation, I think, made it much better. And I asked the questions that people have asked me 1,000 times.
Absolutely. And now I have to go answer different questions.
Have fun.
You
Thank
too.
you, Kate.
Absolutely.
Bye.